There are dreams in life which can only come true when the individuals challenge their own boundaries.
That's what this story is about. It's about the dream of pilots and rescuers to build a mountain rescue station amid the 8,000-meter peaks of the Himalayas. To achieve it, they fly in the death zone up to 7,000 meters.
Yeah, not too easy, huh? Even to go up there. It's not too easy, my dear friend.
They train and test in the icy heights at over 6,000 meters, where the air is thin.
It's fine. You just have to take it slowly.
They save lives.
Have you attached both?
No, just one. Sometimes help comes too late. And all looks lost as two mountain rescuers out on a call touch a wall of ice and fall thousands of meters to their deaths. And yet the dream lives on. This is their story.
When Zermatt pilot Gerold Biner and rescue specialist Bruno Jelk land in Kathmandu, they're unaware that this adventure will change their lives. At Kathmandu airport, the two men meet up with their Nepalese partners from Fishtail Air.
Namaste.
The Swiss rescue specialists are one of a number of teams who are training the Fishtail Air pilots in mountain rescue. Up to now, they have flown only straightforward rescue missions or tourist flights.
This is a new helicopter. You can see here, 08 2009. It's suffered a bit, of course, and we've had to reinforce it a bit here and there, but it's in great condition.
Do you trust these people?
Absolutely. Most of them have families too and don't want to go killing themselves.
They're reunited with the pilots they have high hopes of.
So how are you? How is your family?
Sabine Bazniat, 32, father to a young daughter.
Oh, that's perfect.
6 months ago, the Air Zermatt rescuers flew a mission with Sabine in the Himalayas at 6,400 meters. He's one of Nepal's most experienced pilots. They travel on together to Lukla, the gateway to the Everest region. It's at 2,860 meters and will be the rescue station base.
Lukla is a small village in the Solakumbu district. Most of the people who live here are Sherpas, a people who migrated from Tibet to Nepal. The people live by tourism. They're traders or porters who take the Westerners up the 8,000ers. With its short, steep airstrip, the airport is one of the most dangerous in the world. Still, anyone planning to climb an 8,000er or go trekking has to pass through here. Bruno has also been here often, and yet it's all rather different this time.
For me, coming to the end of my rescue career, it's been a challenge, the icing on the cake to be able to come here to the high mountains of Nepal and still create something lasting, to help. It's been a challenge for me. It's being able to save people, not just recover bodies.
The whole thing's appealing because it's something they haven't had up to now. It's completely new for them, and it's an incredible challenge for us.
Before they get going, Nepali pilot Sabine wants to show Gerold the beauty of the Everest region.
We have crew. Ticket departure setting goes for Gokia, climbing up to 9,204.
During high season in the spring, he brings tourists up here every day. The landscape also reminds him of a childhood experience with his father, who was a helicopter mechanic.
I was up in Namche when I was very small with my dad in Pupua helicopter. Yeah, from the army. Yeah, from the army. And when they took off from Lukla and coming through this gorge, I've never been to mountains before. I was so scared, I was right next to my dad. He was in flight engineer seat. You were impressed, huh? Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Having the sun coming out, all these peaks around, that's heaven for a helicopter pilot, isn't it? Yeah.
At an altitude of just under 6,000 meters, the peaks of the Sagarmatha National Park rise up before them. The 8,000ers of Everest and Lhotse, and close by, climbers on the way to the summit of Lobouche.
It makes our mountains seem like Swiss miniature. It's also huge and impressive, the size of these mountains and their glaciers. I won't forget it as long as I live.
Next morning, things start in earnest. Today, the pilots and rescue specialists are planning a flight to the absolute limit. They want to go up to 7,000 meters, the maximum altitude that a helicopter is allowed to fly. Gerold is on edge. The smallest mistake could spell disaster. The mountain rescuers want to find out whether rescues are at all possible at this height.
Okay, yeah, I feel it.
At 7,000 meters, the air is so thin that without oxygen, the pilots would pass out, causing a crash.
Okay, left is clear. Right side is okay. And we climb up.
The test takes them to Mount Everest, the highest mountain on Earth.
You have to remember that you're on the edge, at the limit of its power. The engine can't give any more, and the helicopter can't climb any further. I need less power to fly forward than I need to hover. If the helicopter can't hold it any longer, it slowly begins to descend. It doesn't drop like a stone, it still holds, but it descends slowly. And you have to be aware of these things.
Und das sind Sachen, wo man sich einfach bewusst sein muss.
You have to leave enough room for that. Unlike flying here, you have to build in more of a reserve.
Look at the light. This is wow. I would say we have all together maybe 280, 300 kg. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
Soon, far below them is Everest Base Camp at 5,340 meters, a tented city housing hundreds of mountaineers.
Here you can feel the downdraft, huh? Yeah. Probably would not be possible to do hover here. Oh, no. Way above, huh? Yeah. So this would be somewhere the height of Camp 2, I guess. Yeah, 20,000 feet. But it's not true. We are much higher, huh? Yeah, it's not true. You can see the Everest, Yeah, that's the North Pole, huh? It's inside there. North Pole.
Ahead of them is the North Col of Everest at over 7,000 meters.
Yeah, we're much higher than Camp 1 right now, huh? Camp 1 is down there. I would say we are already at 7,000. it, huh?
They use a small finger device, the oximeter, to monitor their blood oxygen level.
Good.
Like helicopters, the body is also at its limit in the thin air. The engine can no longer produce enough power to hover.
I tried once. You're okay with that? Yeah, I'm okay. You're okay. Give it those. Thanks a lot. I will just go straight ahead. Whenever something will happen, escape is on my right-hand side. You go slowly. Right-hand pedal, still sufficient pedal, but... Okay, we escape here, slowly, nicely. No problem at all. And now we escape, huh? Okay. Yeah, not too easy, huh? Even to go up there. It's not too easy, my dear friend.
Für mich ist die Erkenntnis gesehen, dass es
I found that it's
möglich
possible to
ist,
do a
Rettungen
rescue up to the
durchzuführen
helicopter's
bis an
certification
die
limit of 7,000
Zertifikationsgrenze vom
meters.
Helikopter bis 7000
But up there
Meter.
you're very
Aber
much
dass
right on
man
the
die
edge,
Schicht da
and
oben
there's
an
absolutely no
ganz
margin for
stark an der
error.
Limit dort bewegen und dass es einfach absolut keinen Fehler verträgt.
Sabine is also confident after the flight.
Today, the wind condition is a little tricky, but otherwise weather is good. We can do it.
With that, the mountain rescuers from Switzerland have reached their first milestone. They take the findings of the test flight and their initial experience back with them to Switzerland.
The second phase of the project begins 6 months later, training the Nepalese team amid the 4,000-meter peaks surrounding Zermatt. Two pilots, Sabine and Siddhartha, as well as Purna, a mechanic, are here for 3 weeks of intensive training. What they need now are specific skills and knowledge, and to become familiar with the routine. Gerold drums into the team the importance of communication on a rescue mission and gives them a warning.
The takeoff and the landing with persons on board always try to do
Siddhartha and
as
Sabine,
stable as
the two
possible.
pilots, and
As soon
Purna,
as you
the
are
trainee
safe on the
mountain
ground, that
rescuer.
you can stay and that you are safe, then it's secured. And then the number 3 is when you hook out and when the cable is free, then say you are free. It's nice, a lot of fun, but it can be very, very tricky. And you will just see the basics here and learn the basics. After that, don't go into the steep, into the danger stuff. Like, it's so easily, if one major thing goes wrong, then you'll find yourself in a very critical position. Die haben eine solide Grundbasis.
They have a solid foundation from a flying point of view.
Was sie
What they
einfach noch
don't
nie
have, or
gemacht
what
haben
they
oder
haven't
wenig
done much
gemacht
of so
haben,
far,
das sind die
is external
Unterlastflüge, das
load
sind
flying.
die Rettungen mit dem
Rescues
Seil, da haben
using
sie
the cable.
praktisch null Erfahrung.
They've virtually no experience
Und,
of that.
Im
Unlike
Gegensatz jetzt zur
Switzerland, where
Schweiz,
we've
wo
been
man
doing
das
it for
seit
40
40 Jahren
years now.
praktiziert, hat man
We've gained a lot of
sicher
experience in
viel
that time,
Erfahrung
and we want to
ansammeln.
pass on our
Und das ist ja
experience
das,
to
was
these
wir wollen,
people.
dass wir das
Not just the
den
good,
Leuten
but also
mitgeben,
mainly in
die
terms of
Erfahrung
what can
nicht nur
happen
die
if,
positiven,
given certain
sondern
circumstances,
hauptsächlich
something
aber,
goes
was kann
wrong.
passieren, wenn
That's the
unter
main aim
gewissen
of this
Umständen
training.
etwas schief geht. Und das ist das, was das Hauptziel ist von der Ausbildung.
After several weeks of training with the cable, known as the long line, comes the first tough test. Today, the two Nepalese pilots, Sabine and Siddhartha, are going to put up avalanche barriers.
Now we'll really see what these boys are made of. This is where it gets real.
Jetzt ist gefordert.
He doesn't think they'll pull it off. Gerold reckons that it's one of the most difficult jobs, even for Swiss pilots. It's a job where every centimetre counts. Bruno Jelk is waiting with Purna, the trainee mountain rescuer, at the landing site. Purna will learn how the mountain rescuers on the ground communicate with the pilot by radio.
Yes, only with helicopter.
And now we go straight up to Jimmy. Okay. Jimmy, come in. Yes, go ahead. Okay, now I can hear you.
Bruno watches carefully and hears how pilot Sabine is guided in by radio from the ground.
Okay, Sabine, you can see me. I'm in the middle of the element. That will be your reference point. Roger. Okay. Slightly up. That's good.
Sabine has a load of several tons on a line 30 meters long. He has to set it down exactly in the right place.
Now you can lower. Slowly lower the element. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Very good. Okay, go down a little bit. First, straight up, straight up. Okay, it's straight and clear. That's it. Yeah. Easy job, eh? No, it's good. Very good. You both done excellent.
Bruno has also impressed his trainer.
Yeah? Thank you very much.
Yes. It's welcome,
for
sir.
your help.
You are very hard work. It's very well done. And this try also training.
Yeah.
Yes. You are very good. Good job, good man. Thank you.
Thanks, you too.
To be honest, I thought this will not work today. To be honest, I'm sorry. Please, I apologize. No, you did a great job. We are now, like communicating in centimeters. Yeah. 20 centimeters. It's a good 5 centimeters. Yeah, it's a good feeling. Yeah.
Next morning, Purna is on his way through the climbing ground with Bruno. Purna doesn't yet have much experience of climbing, and Bruno wants to introduce him slowly to his mountain rescue work.
Let's try this first time. This little bit try. This Bruno also me training. Try also this. This hopefully successful is me. Ready? Go. Yes. Slowly? Yes. Ready? This side, Purna. This side. Good.
For Purna, this training is a huge opportunity. He feels a mix of gratitude, respect and admiration for Bruno.
All experience, that's God's, so I know this. Going to God's also, remember is never, this is God's also this way. I like it very, very. This my also God almost Bruno.
Bruno has really grasped it. He immediately knew what he can and what he can't do. He was also hugely interested and completely motivated. It's great to work with people like that, of course.
Okay, pull in the power and off we go. This guy is maybe heavily injured, huh? Okay. So this is serious. So when something is difficult, I will take over, huh? Perfect.
The first mission for Sabine, along with pilot Robbie Andermatten, they're picking Bruno up from home.
Okay, you can take off. Pull in power, go. Pull in the power, go. No.
Ja, los, das ist also der Bieshorn, der Triachte im Ostgrad.
3 people are stuck at 3,800 meters on the eastern ridge of the Bieshorn.
Yeah. Looks good, huh? It looks good. Yeah. We go down and put on the rope, huh? Okay. Go on a little bit forward.
A long line rescue is the only option.
Perfect. Slowly, huh? Hallo, du gaat 3 skal dra, hè?
Okay, 3 skal dra til korttrappen.
Ja. Okay, bist du bereit, Bruno? Ja, okay. Coming on. He's off the ground. We'll put in.
30 meters under the helicopter, Bruno has attached himself to the cable. Sabine flies him to the trapped climbers.
He's doing good, Bruno. Not higher. He said not higher. See, you're still climbing.
This is the first time Sabine has rescued anyone with the long line. With this technique, he can hover over the scene of the accident without the rotors coming too close to the side of the mountain, with the risk that they touch.
And we can go up and free. Yep, and we can go to the right away, huh? Okay.
Bruno takes care of the injured man and gets him ready to be carried away on the line.
Slightly 1 meter. Looking in. They are on. The power is good. Your control. Microphone. Perfect. Which is go down. Looking up and lead to 60 kilometers an hour.
As he has practiced, Sabine has to put his load down very precisely. The only difference now is that people are on the line and a mistake could have horrific consequences.
You can go. You're free. Yes, okay. Perfect. You're free. Good. You see, I see. With the mirror, with the comments, you're doing all right. But you don't want to look down. It's a little scary. I know. Yeah. Oh, scary. Yeah. You want to come on this side without the window.
Then Sabine flies Bruno back too.
2, 1, slowly. Contact.
Sabine's first long-line rescue is a success.
For you, Sabine?
Yeah, first human sling.
Nice experience.
Nice
huh?
experience, yeah.
What is the most impressive about?
Actually, we were very close to the cliff, but this time it was fine for me. And I'm not looking down, not doing vertical reference, so it is a little hard. I'm doing on the mirror. So otherwise, it's coming good. But needs lots of practice now. Yeah.
You can see that they're proud to be flying rescues. And for us too, it's incredibly satisfying when we can teach someone something. You feel their gratitude, and you hope that they've now reached a level which also gives them the security that call-outs don't immediately take them out of their comfort zone.
After 3 weeks, training in Switzerland is finished, and Sabine and his colleagues are returning to Nepal where they'll be by themselves. What stage do they think they're at in their training?
I think we are level 1, close to level 1.
Which means how many levels do you have in your mind?
I think there are up to level 3, So we are just beginning. So I think beginning of 1, I'd say.
In 6 months' time, the specialists from Zermatt will fly back to Nepal to complete the long-line training in the Himalayas. Until then, their Nepalese friends are to fly rescue missions alone, but not take any risks.
I have to be honest, we've had some in-depth discussions here, internally with the pilots, with experienced people about whether or not the time is right, whether we can let them go it alone or not, and what they can do. But I think Siddhartha and Sabine are pilots with enough experience to gauge what's okay and what's not. We've asked them to hold back and not to use the sling yet, simply because they don't have the communications technology.
Einfach die Taubergung noch nicht einsetzen, weil einfach die Kommunikationsmittel fehlen.
Kathmandu, Nepal, in November. Here on the top floor of the house that he built himself lives trainee mountain rescuer Purna with his family, children Rikesh and Risaf, and wife Sabina. It's the time of the religious festival, a time in which all come together, and Purna concentrates only on his family.
At the beginning, my family thought my job was very dangerous, and they were scared. They tried to make me stop, but then they got used to it, and I managed to win them over. Now, they're proud that I'm the first trained mountain rescuer in Nepal. And if anything happens, there's nothing anyone can really do about it.
Just emotionally training गर्नेमा म एउटा कुरो भोलि मेरो पनि इज्जत हुन्छ तिमीहरुको पनि जस्ट अब हुने लेखार दिन छ भने अब जे पनि हुन्छ
पहिला त डर हुन्थ्यो
I was scared at first. I worried that something would happen and I wouldn't know how I would manage with the children. But I've got used to it now.
अहिले चाहिँ त्यति डर छैन तर अब त्यही हिमालतिर त्यस्तो जाने
Sometimes when he goes up into the Himalayas, I still get frightened. But the fear goes as soon as he calls.
Purna proudly shows his sons pictures of Zermatt. A skilled tradesman, he joined Fishtail Air as a mechanic 2 years ago. Before that, he was unemployed for a long time. But thanks to his training, everything seems to have taken a turn for the better.
I'm lucky to have a husband like him. He has the best job in the family. Nobody else in the family has anything to do with flying. When he was out of work, nobody cared about him. But now, he's respected, and they all listen to him.
But happiness can be a fleeting thing, and as so often, misfortune comes to those who deserve it least. What nobody knew at that time was that this would be the last evening that Purna would spend with his family. What everyone hopes will never happen, happened the next day.
Here on Ama Dablam begins a series of events that will change everything. Up on the mountain, two experienced mountaineers, David Götler and Kazuya Hiraide, are attempting to climb a new route. After days of snowfall, they are trapped at 6,330 meters. They use a mobile phone to ring their agency in Kathmandu. There, word of Fishtail Air's mountain rescue training has got around, so Sabine and Purna are sent to the rescue. On the morning of the 7th of November, they approach the two mountaineers at 6,330 meters and make a first rescue attempt.
I can remember the helicopter, it came, and then Purna, the assistant, opened the door, the front door, and then you have the sliding door of the helicopter. He slid the door back, and he give one hand, and I could remember very well the face of Purna when he looked at me there the first time, and he had this oxygen thing in the mouth, in the nose, and I was then inside the helicopter, and we all get like, we know now a little bit the tension was going away, and then we fly down to Chukum, and I went out of the helicopter, and they start again for taking Kazuya, my climbing partner.
David Götler films the mountain from a safe distance without knowing what tragedy is about to happen. Sabine and Purna approach his climbing partner Kazuya in the helicopter. As agreed with their trainers in Zermatt, they don't attempt to go in with a long line, but instead fly towards the ice ridge to pick up Kazuya from a hover. Suddenly there's a cloud of dust. The helicopter touches a block of ice before crashing several thousand meters. Pilot Siddhartha, who also trained in Switzerland, is the first to fly to the scene of the accident without knowing of his friend's fatal crash. At this time, nobody knows.
It took half an hour to find out whether our friends were alive or dead. As we were hovering, we saw Purna's body first. It was clear that he was dead. There was no trace of Sabine. We sent Sherpas out on the ground, and they finally found him in a crevasse in the glacier. There was no sign of life. The next thing was to get the bodies back to Kathmandu as quickly as possible. But it was already too late to do that the same day.
At this point, climber Kazuya Hiraide is still trapped on the ridge of Ama Dablam at 6,330 meters.
It wasn't until the evening that we learned that the German climber had already been brought to safety in Chukung. The accident only happened with the second flight, as they tried to rescue the Japanese climber. We were sent to rescue the Japanese man. I didn't have a good feeling about it. I didn't want to fly there and have to see the tragedy that had happened to my friends. I felt a certain anger towards the Japanese man, as though it was his fault that the accident had happened, but that was a childish thing.
Having rescued Kazuya, Siddhartha brings his two dead friends back from Ama Dablam in the helicopter. As the bodies are carried into a tent, the families slowly begin to realize the full severity of the accident. Sabina, who had been celebrating with Purna 2 days earlier, and Poonam, wife of Sabina, are suddenly alone with their children.
Für ihn war absoluter Schock. Das ist genau das, was wir alle vermeiden und was eigentlich die ganze Intention von dem Projekt hat darin bestanden, dass man genau diese Situation vermeidet, dass man weniger Risiko eingeht, dass man ihnen eine gewisse Sicherheit gibt. Und tragischerweise ist dann nur der Unfall passiert und das ist etwas, was wir nicht steuern können und was wir haben akzeptieren müssen, aber was für uns unheimlich schwer war.
According to Hindu tradition, the bodies of Sabine and Purna are to be cremated that same evening at the holy shrine of Pashupatinath in Kathmandu. All relatives and friends have come together. Purna's body is carried to the cremation site. In line with tradition, his 13-year-old son, Rikesh, is now the head of the family. Purna leaves behind his wife and 2 children. Sabine finds his last resting place next to Purna. He leaves behind his wife, Poonam, and his little 2-year-old daughter, Minerva. The only comfort for the families is perhaps that the two lost their lives while doing a good deed, which in the Hindu faith will help them in the next life.
It was a big loss for me, like Sabine and me had been flying together for the last 17-18 years since we started our careers. And many things we have done together, started doing instructor rating and other types of flying. So it was a big loss for us, but still like it's your job and you have to carry on. That was my feeling.
Six months later, Gerold Biner and Bruno Jelk fly back to Nepal as planned. Despite the setback, they want to move ahead and set up the rescue station in the Himalayas with a new team. They arrive with mixed feelings and many questions in their minds.
Ja klar haben wir uns Vorwürfe gemacht, also mir ganz speziell, weil wir die Diskussionen hatten hier mit den Pilotenkollegen und da ab und zu auch die Meinung ist gekommen, dass die das einfach nicht werden schaffen und dass das zu früh ist und dass wir ein grosses Tempo haben vorgelegt, wo wir sie vielleicht auch überfordert.
And so they came back to Lukla, where it all happened pilot Siddhartha will take Sabine's place. Yet before Siddhartha and Gerold can even think of training, the two pilots want together to get some closure from the accident. They want to fly up to 6,450 meters where the accident happened. Since the tragedy, Siddhartha has flown many times past the mountain where his friends died.
Did you ever think to quit?
Not really. I just wanted to take some break after the accident, and I didn't fly for maybe a week. And then after we had to fly, what to do? So it was a little bit stressful, but I had no intention of quitting flying.
Yeah, we are taking off, sir.
It is 6 months since Sabine and Purna crashed on Amadablam.
Yeah, I'm a little bit low. I'll go a little bit higher.
Yeah, no problem. Very close to the clouds. Turn slightly to the left. Always very close to the clouds. Yeah, that's good. Look at this. Look at this. Wow.
Okay, now I'm climbing straight to Sabine's point.
That's an incredible wall, isn't it?
No.
So they climbed up here or the wall behind?
Like this. Through this
here?
Oh, through this ridgeline.
Ah, okay. Wow, what a wall. Well, to go in here and do rescue missions in here, this will be very, very difficult. From the ridgeline, no problem. So they went up here?
Yeah, from the ridgeline. There were those that Japanese and German guys, climbers, they were climbing through the ridge. And at a certain point, they couldn't go either above or from down there.
Okay, we're approaching 6,000 meters. You think we will be able to do a hover?
I think so.
Okay, let's try. That was this bump straight ahead, huh?
Yes, that is the bump.
Wow, what a wall. Which bump was it? The second one?
Yes.
The big one?
Yeah, big one,
just behind, yeah. So, and you picked them up on the lower bump?
On the lower bump.
There's not much to say, you know?
Yeah. I think even me, I could have tried that. Yeah. Maybe even you could have tried that.
I would have tried exactly the same, you know? Can we go down and have a quick look at the debris zone?
Yeah, sure.
The helicopter crashed around 2,000 meters down to the foot of the wall.
Because normally, they're down there, I see something.
I think there's something red and...
Yeah, I'll
see that. Yeah, that's the intake cover for the helicopter. And I think there's some blade over there in the front.
Yeah, that's the car.
And there's a piece of broken plate over there.
Yeah. The tail rotor.
Main rotor.
Main rotor. Okay, let's go home. Won't see anything. May they rest in peace, huh?
Yep.
Ja, eindrücklich.
Impressive.
I just managed to deal with it, and it doesn't feel that bad right now. We have to get over it, and life has to go on. So that's how I think, and it was their fate, and it was their day, it was their time. And for us, we have to move on, learn from the things which happened, and hope for the best for the future.
All of the burden and all hopes now rest on Siddhartha's shoulders.
Der Druck, den Siddhartha hatte, wo er sich kam, ist enorm, riesengroß. Die Erwartungen sind groß. Und er ist eigentlich jemand, der nicht viel sagt, aber man hat muss absehen, dass es für ihn eine Belastung ist. Dass er aber voll von Enthusiasmus ist gesehen, dass er gesagt hat, mal, das mache ich jetzt, das bin ich nicht nur dem Sabin schuldig, das will ich auch lernen, weil das bringt mich weiter.
And so the dream lives on. To speed up the training process, Bruno Jelk is joined in Lukla by Zermatt pilot Danny Aufdenblatten and rescue specialist Helmut Lerien. The new mountain rescuer in the team is Chering, climber of Everest and mountain guide. Together with Bruno Jelk, he's preparing for a crevasse exercise on a glacier at just under 6,000 meters.
We haven't changed anything, either in the concept or the nature of the training, because the accident wasn't actually directly related to the training.
The exercise at almost 6,000 meters is also dangerous because the oxygen level is very low and not everyone is as well acclimatized as Chering.
It's definitely difficult and danger for those who are coming from sea level and also for us, but we have lots of prevention we can do, and we already flew many times over 5,000 meters. It should not be a problem, but there will be always one. We have to have one emergency oxygen always with us. We never know what can happen on the mountains.
The pilots transport the equipment from 2,800 meters to 6,000 meters in just a few minutes.
Up to 5, it's no problem. 4.
The rescue specialists are waiting below with Bruno and Chering.
1 on the ground. Okay. So down. And land. Okay, that's fine.
Today, Chering will learn how to rescue people from glacier crevasses safely using modern equipment.
This side. Sure, sir. Der auch im letzten rausziehen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Despite the altitude, they work without oxygen.
Voila, very good. Yeah.
It's fine, you just have to work slowly.
Bruno has brought a tripod with him from Zermatt.
Very important, this X is horizontal.
It is a Swiss invention that has already saved the lives of many people. It's now to be used in the Himalayas. A volunteer is hanging 10 meters into the crevasse. Chering is lowered down to her. It should all be as realistic as possible.
Oh, sorry, I go now. 5 meters down.
Chering attaches the volunteer to the cable with ease. He has climbed Everest many times and has taken guests up several 8,000ers. Chering is one of the few Nepalese who also works as a mountain guide in Europe during the summer. He's a pro.
Pull the cable, otherwise it'll come out. Pull the cable.
Chering is ein Typ, der macht's. Der schaut Soundcast gerade. Das ist ja
Chering is a doer. He looks at the situation and does what it takes. He's an incredible guy. He's learned. You can see that he's done this before. He knows the mountains. He does what needs to be done. He's also highly intelligent. A great man.
Das ist ein super Mann.
He can do everything straight off. We've maybe shown him a couple of tricks, but he can do it. And that's great.
Das ist super.
That's good.
Das ist gut.
In the past, Chering has often been in situations where people needed to be rescued from crevasses, but he has been unable to help because he didn't have the equipment.
It's gonna be really, really much useful because in a glacier they use pulley system. With this, many people also can be killed because sometimes we can forget easily to put ice axe or something under the rope, and rope can cut the ice, and it can be very dangerous. And also there is one there is, I know where it is, it was killed in Peru or somewhere. They tried to rescue out one ladies climber, but it was totally stuck like this, and then try to full continue, then it was kaput, finish. So, but with this system, rescuer and victim is very clear, very open, very safe.
Yet a safe system in itself is not enough to ensure a safe rescue. Security can only be guaranteed by pilot and rescuer training together and going out on exercise together. And everyone knows that there mustn't be a second incident.
Wir müssen das Zusammenspiel zwischen dem Pilot und dem Sherpa oder dem Bergretter, das müssen wir fördern, das müssen sie noch trainieren. Und sie müssen auch mal alleine gehen. Der Siddhartha ist nie solo geflogen hier in der Schweiz und er hat das Vertrauen hat er noch gebraucht, dass er allein der Heli steuern mit einem Bergretter noch dran und wir schauen immer zu und können immer Tipps geben.
After several days of tough training, the time has come. Siddhartha and Charing have their first real test with the longline at 5,800 meters altitude, with Everest in the background.
20 meters above the ground. 10 meters above the ground. 5 meters above the ground. Level is okay. Contact. Contact. Half a meter, hold the position. We'll do that, sir. And hook, ready to take off. Half a meter back.
Siddhartha picks up Charing with absolute precision. Together they fly over Everest base camp. High winds make their job even more difficult.
Oh, Charing.
Well, Captain.
Do you see Bruno on our left-hand side of the helicopter?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm taking you to Bruno.
Okay, Captain. Now I can see Bruno also.
Am I touched Bruno?
I can see Bruno. The hair is okay. Down 5 meters, the hair is
Siddhartha
okay.
has to set Charing down next to Bruno Jelk, who's waiting at the landing site and watching everything closely.
Down 1 meter, 1 meter, contact.
I had mixed feelings. I hoped that it would work and work well, because if anything else had happened there, it would have been really critical.
Helicopter is free.
Suddenly, the exercise takes a serious turn. An enormous wall of cloud is moving up the Khumbu Valley at great speed. Siddhartha had already taken Bruno and the volunteer, who was rescued by Charing, down to just under 5,800 meters. But now he has to act quickly. Clouds and snow are already covering Everest as Charing takes off. The mountain rescue and camera teams risk being cut off by the cloud at an altitude of almost 6,000 meters. They're evacuated at the last minute.
If you got stuck up there when you're not acclimatized, there's of course a huge risk of developing high altitude sickness. That would be the end of you, because you wouldn't get back on your own. It would take hours or even days until you got back to an altitude that your body could cope with.
That's Everest live, as Gerold says. That's what a real call-out could be like.
Ja, dat is ziemlich heavy.
That was pretty heavy just now.
Aber
But he handled it solo.
Hat solo gemacht. May I help you?
With that, the Swiss and Nepalese mountain rescuers have together cleared another hurdle on the way to realizing their dream.
Hey, no, you do not need us anymore.
First solo with cheering, it was a real experience for me because most of my training had been done at lower altitude, but around 5,500 meters doing solo long line with cheering. At that moment, I realized I'm capable of doing the same kind of work even in the Himalayas. That was the main turning point.
Siddhartha doesn't have to wait long to put his skills to the test. A climber has died on Everest. The emergency call reached Lukla late in the evening. Siddhartha now has to fly to Camp 2 at 6,400 meters to recover the body.
I heard he was American, but I'm not sure. He's a mountaineer. He apparently had a heart attack at Camp 3 the day before yesterday. The Sherpas took him to Camp 2, and we're going to get him from there.
It will be the first time that Siddhartha has flown up to 6,400 meters without Gerold's support to land and take off again. He's very focused as he prepares himself.
We are just trying to make the helicopter very light, so we'll have a little bit more power margin in the altitude. And also it's going to be easy if we have to put in some people inside, the dead body inside.
What is the day plan?
We are going to land at Camp 2, and the Sherpas there will put in the body from here. That's the plan.
We'll bring down the body.
Experience.
Kind of different feelings comes in your mind?
Not really, no feelings at all. It's work, so going there and doing it. From outside and inside, it's a totally different thing. Like inside, you are thinking so many things, and you're not even sure of yourself sometimes. But still, something has to be done, and you have to make your mind up what you're going to do. You cannot be on the fence and not decide on anything. Decide whatever you want to decide, even if it's good or bad, and hope it's good what you're doing.
Sir, we are starting the borders for match. Reach again, sir.
Everest's 8,850 meters towers in front of Siddhartha. Recovering the dead climber is dangerous work at freezing altitude.
While Siddhartha is in the air, an injured climber has just landed from Everest Base Camp. His name is Michael Gibbons. He was lucky. He fell into a crevasse on a glacier, but was rescued and is now waiting with a broken arm to be taken on to Kathmandu and back to America.
You were lucky, the other person had to die. It's a very thin line, you also fell into a crevasse. It could have happened in a very bad case to you also. How do you feel about it? Did you ever think about that?
I try not to think about it too much. You train real hard to do very well on these particular mountains, and then you put your hard work in God's hands, and hopefully everything will come out well for you.
In the meantime, Siddhartha is getting closer to his destination, alone and highly concentrated.
Roger, 173 climbing, QNH 1013.
He gives his position on the radio flying over base camp.
I'm approaching overhead base camp and 18,000. Do you have me in sight? 176, 177. Roger, copy it. I'm overhead icefall. Going in.
At an altitude of of 6,500 meters, Siddhartha flies over Camp 1 into the Valley of Silence.
Camp 2, Juliet, India.
Siddhartha, I don't think Camp 2 can reply.
Also, we have copied, sir.
Far below him, a line of climbers is struggling over crevasses and ice fields up to Camp 2.
Roger, I'm shortly turning final. Roger, landing. I'm going in for landing.
Siddhartha approaches Camp 2 at 6,400 meters, another tented city on ice and snow, with hundreds of climbers on their way to the summit of Everest. The Sherpas are waiting with the mountaineer's body at the end of the camp.
Okay, wind is I have to make a downwind approach. The body will be my reference.
Siddhartha can't afford to make any mistakes with a landing at this altitude.
Okay, I'm in.
He lands safely. The Sherpas lift the dead climber into the helicopter. Siddhartha leaves the rotors turning.
Okay, guys, I'm checking off now.
The helicopter lifts off only slowly with the additional weight. There's no longer enough air under the rotors to rise any further. Siddhartha and his cargo hover low over Camp 2.
Okay, I'm out and safe. Okay, we are proceeding to Firiche now.
Where's the body?
Hey, Tom, we have body. I'm going to Firiche and I'll drop this body to Lukla and come back.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mountaineers often aren't aware of the risks that pilots take to rescue them, or in the worst case, to recover their bodies.
The climber who had the heart attack had celebrated his 55th birthday here on Everest only 2 days earlier. He was no novice. Climbing Mount Everest was a long-held dream. For him, it would have been the last of the 7 summits, the 7 highest mountains in the world. It was a dream he died for. Like Michael Gibbons, he was American. Instead of standing on the summit of Everest, his body will now be flown back to his family in America.
With Camp 2, I was quite comfortable. We had enough power margin. And for the Sherpas over there to bring down this dead body, it will be a huge task. So with the helicopter, it's so easy. And I think even they are relieved, like they don't have to carry him down to the base camp or to Lobuche. So it was good for them and good for us also. And up to Camp 2, it's quite okay for us getting 1 or 2 person down in an emergency or dead body. So I'm satisfied with it. The conditions were good and luck was weather favored me. So I'm very thankful.
Life and death are side by side in the world of the 8,000ers. Who survives or who dies is often a matter of luck or fate.
When I was seeing the gentleman's body being unloaded, I felt sad, but because I'm a Christian, I'm confident he's in heaven. And he'll be there with God. So.
But Michael Gibbons' Everest adventure only seems to be over. In America, the doctors find that the arm isn't broken. Gibbons immediately flies back to Nepal, charters a helicopter to base camp, and on the 21st of May, stands on the summit of his dreams after all. Is this the future of helicopter rescue in the Himalayas?
No climber should be so foolhardy as to go into the mountains hoping that nothing happens to him or her, or that if something does happen, a helicopter will come along or somebody will carry him or her down. I think anyone going into the mountains with that sort of thinking has no business being there.
Do you think the climbers are taking more risks because they think a helicopter will come and rescue them?
Das ist genau die Frage, die bei uns auch immer gestellt wird. Oder?
That's exactly the question we're always being asked. Are we, with all our modern rescue equipment, encouraging people to go into the mountains? And I always say that may well be true, but we can't guarantee that we'll bring them back alive. Different rules apply up there. It's the same up in the Himalayas. There are people who have bad luck, and it's our job to help them, to rescue them. In Nepal too. If someone takes more risks because of the rescue system that's in place, well, that's his or her problem. Whether or not he can actually be rescued is a different story. And the Himalayas are also a whole different matter. The next call-out illustrates that clearly. It takes them away from Everest to the west of Nepal, to the 8,156-meter-high Manaslu, where they are to recover the body of a Korean man. They land at Samagaon, a small village at 3,390 meters. A year ago, a Korean expedition got into difficulties on Manaslu. They called the Mountain Rescue Service. 2 climbers were rescued alive, but 2 had disappeared. One of them has now been found.
We checked the
Pilot Danny Aufdenblatten, who flew the mission last year, takes charge of the recovery.
If it's okay, I will place Bruno there, and he will decide whether the second rotation will come up.
Sure, sir.
That would be Manuel and you.
Sure, sir.
Okay?
Bruno was himself part of an expedition on Manaslu 30 years ago. My God, there are a lot of people up there. There weren't nearly as many when we were there.
I think I can see them standing here towards the front.
He's lying up there, can you see?
They've made room. Good.
This year, the Koreans put together a special expedition to look for their missing colleagues. They have only found one of them. At an intermediate site, at an altitude of 6,400 meters, 3 Sherpas have prepared the body of the Korean man to be flown down the mountain. Bruno stays behind to coordinate the recovery of the Korean climber, named Park Hang-soo, while Danny takes off to collect Chering. For a year, Park Hang-soo had laid buried under ice and snow at 7,400 meters.
We Sherpas went up there, wrapped the body up and brought it down. It was very hard work carrying it down, but now, luckily, we can get him flown out.
We are so happy.
The Sherpas dragged the dead climber Park down around 1,000 meters in altitude, across crevasses and ice cliffs, at times putting their own lives at risk. It's a hell of a job to bring the body down here. It's extreme, of course. Well, they've got a good sled at least. They've split the barrel, split 2 barrels so they could pull him down. The Sherpas didn't find his friend, but did find an Iranian climber who died here 3 days ago. They buried him in the snow right next to Park Hang-soo. In the meantime, Chering is being flown to the site at 6,400 meters.
Park Hang-soo's family and friends paid $25,000 for the search expedition and helicopter recovery. If they hadn't insisted on finding him and bringing him home to say their goodbyes, he would have stayed up at over 7,000 meters. Park would have been one of the many unidentified bodies that lie on the huge mountains of the Himalayas. Many bodies are never recovered because until now, without a helicopter, it was too dangerous and too strenuous to bring them down from the freezing altitude in the thin air. The Iranian man remains behind, buried in the snow. There he will stay unless someone orders and pays for him to be recovered. Sharing hopes that climbers like him can be rescued alive in future.
Would have been nice before if they could call before when what happened. So it could come by MERS and we could try at least. So many people are still in Nepal very they don't know what kind of technology are now already in Nepal. So in the future, all trekking agents in Nepal, they must concern someone's life. Don't think about the money.
In Samagaon, Park's friends have prepared a Buddhist ceremony to say their goodbyes. They're watched by the people of the village, who are transfixed by the climber's grief. The climbers themselves are thankful, they say, that their dead friend can now be flown home to his family in Korea and given a decent burial.
Nach wie vor werden viele Leute sterben im Himalaya und der Helikopter ist eigentlich nur das Hilfsmittel für Leute Hilfe zu bringen und so muss man das eigentlich auch sehen.
There is still a long way to go before the local population above all will be able to benefit from the use of helicopters. This fact was demonstrated clearly as the rescue team flew back to Lukla in the Everest region. As ever, the airstrip is very busy, with flights taking off and landing by the minute. For trekkers and mountaineers, this is where the adventure starts. It's a place where Western travelers can fulfill their wishes and dreams of high mountains and magical scenery. But it's also a place where rich and poor meet.
Gerold India is starting on borders for Air Zermatt, 8 miles east of Lukla, and we'll be climbing to level 155 and flying time will be approximately 10 minutes.
Siddhartha and Bruno set out on a commercial flight. Their task is to pick up a group of trekkers from Kare, a hamlet on Mera, at 5,500 meters. The group has decided that it no longer wants to take on the 2-day walk back to Lukla.
Bruno, can you hear me? There are 4 people, and please 3 people first flight. 3 people inside? 3 people inside, 1 person second flight, okay? Yes. Okay, that's good.
Can I open the door for looking the heck?
Yes, please.
The heck is up there. Half a meter to have contact. Can I go outside?
Yes, Bruno.
Siddhartha lands in Kare and Bruno organizes the return flight for the group. They are Russian tourists.
Bruno, 3 people first time and 2 people.
For weight reasons, Siddhartha can only take 3 tourists on their first flight to Lukla.
Okay, we're just putting them in, I'm trying to tell them 3 people, but still, communication is a little bit difficult. Yeah. All is good?
Business as usual, but more than anything, it's big business for the helicopter companies.
People who can afford it, they ask for the service. So if we provide the service, there will be clients coming to get your service. So in a way, helicopter rescue is a big business for the helicopter companies.
Yet other rules apply to the poor. Kali Sherpa has been waiting at Lukla airport since the early morning. Between the tourists who are taking off and landing here, he's waiting for a flight to hospital in Kathmandu. His relatives carried him on this makeshift stretcher for 3 days to reach Lukla.
He fell while fixing the roof and broke his back. We took him to Kathmandu, where he spent 2 months in hospital. He isn't doing well at the moment and has pain in his lower body. We have to take him back to Kathmandu.
Is it difficult for patients who live in such a remote place?
Yes, of course. You don't just go and buy a ticket. I've been trying to get a standby ticket for 2 days now, but there aren't any. His stomach is horribly swollen. It would be a big relief for him to get to hospital as soon as possible.
For the tourists who Siddhartha is bringing back, money is no object.
We are starting left.
Their air taxi ride to Lukla and onto Kathmandu costs $8,000. Only 100 meters away, Kali Sherpa is still waiting.
He can't hear us, but he can talk all right. He doesn't want to go to Kathmandu. He says treatment costs too much.
The flight to Kathmandu alone costs him $80. Meanwhile, there is a relaxed holiday mood among the Russian tourists.
Did you always plan to come back by helicopter?
No, it's our first time when we use helicopter.
So why did you use it this time?
Because we want make it more quickly, coming back more quickly.
Only now, once all of the tourists have landed and taken off, is there space in the aircraft for Kali Sherpa. His daughter and son-in-law are paying for his flight and hospital treatment out of their savings. None of them has insurance. This contrast between rich and poor is also something that bothers Bruno Jelk.
Das sollte in Zukunft nicht mehr passieren. Das sollte man schauen, doch eine Lösung zu finden, dass man finanzielle Mittel hat, dass man solche Transporte auf Anhieb erledigen könnte. Das ist für uns ziemlich ein riesiger Vorteil. Und für mich persönlich, das ist Herz zu sehen, dass man da reiche Touristen gegen Reiche, weil sie zu Fußins laufen und das sind kranke Leute, die einfach wegen Finanziellen, nicht wegen etwas anderem, nur wegen Finanziellen nicht in ein Spital kommen.
So far, the helicopter companies have offered the poor population a 50% discount or taken people with them for free if they have the space, but that's still not enough.
You need to have a way of funding those kind of operation, either through local community level or by subsidizing it through the other flights which we do for the tourist flights, tourist rescue. Those two things can, I think, make a difference for funding those kind of flights.
Much of the population of Nepal lives not in Kathmandu, but in the simplest of circumstances, far away in the mountains. The average annual income is around $400 per person. Helicopter companies are increasingly being contracted to work in remote regions, as here. The task today is to transport cables for suspension bridges up to remote valleys. The contrast between modern life and the simple life of the people couldn't be greater, and it seems to be increasing.
The world is changing right now with the globalization, with the mobile phone. Like in Nepal, maybe 7 out of every 10 people have a mobile phone, even in those remote places. It's bound to change, and you cannot stay tell them to freeze in certain moment of time. Everything is changing, so gradually people have to either adapt or they will not survive.
Alongside rescue, transport flights like these are a lucrative business for Fishtail Air. The company will earn around $50,000 from this contract, which was awarded by the government.
Most probably we'll take this and drop it there, then I'll release the hook. The government gives every development grant to all the districts and village development committees.
So like they are trying to build bridges in this area, because without proper bridges it's very difficult and dangerous for the people to walk there. So we are just transporting this cables for the bridges, because to carry it by people it will be very difficult. Like just for one cable, like you need 20-30 people on a long line taking the rope like this on difficult paths. So with the helicopter it will be easier for them.
For Siddhartha, it is an ideal long line training exercise.
One to the right. Okay, let's hope that you can go straight up until the cable is tied.
Yet what seemed so easy suddenly becomes a trickier job than they thought.
Ooh, 500. Okay.
To their surprise, the cables are much heavier than they were told.
500. 540, huh?
Yeah.
Not 300.
No, 368 was supposed to be like that.
It's like at home. They say 300 kgs and it has 500. But it's just a cable. Now we're reaching the limits, huh?
Yep.
The village is at just under 4,000 meters on the border with Tibet.
If it's getting critical, just call release.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, but the horses are running away now, huh?
Yeah.
Now we let it slow down, huh?
Wait. Okay, contact.
Tail rotor is fine, no problem.
Wait.
Jawohl, ist. Sofort ist. Jawohl. That's good, huh?
Yep.
That's fine. So that was a controlled crash.
Yep.
Huh?
Together with the heavy cargo, Bruno remains behind in the village of Samdo, where he has a special mission. Samdo is the last village in the valley, 8 days' walk from civilization.
I'll give that one to her.
This is where Bruno's other side comes out. It bears no relation to Bruno, the quiet mountain rescuer. He has brought a bag full of clothes and toys from Switzerland to give to the people.
Okay.
It's something I like to do. I always do it, whenever I can bring clothes with me. But there's never enough, you know. You can't bring any more with you, but at least it's something. I love doing it, but I can't make everyone happy.
Bruno has been coming to Nepal as a climber or trekker for almost 30 years. And during that time, he has come to love the people, he says. He grew up in very simple circumstances himself in the Swiss Alps.
There are people who mean a lot to me, and not just in Nepal. It was the same in Peru, although Peru is a bit more developed than Nepal. Tibet's the same. I think we should help these people. The stuff that we don't need anymore, we should give to them.
Meanwhile, Siddhartha's work continues, attaching rolls of steel cable to the line and flying off into the valleys, always watched by the people who are used to carrying their loads for themselves. As in the Alps, these transport flights make for easier access to the valleys. But one has to ask if the helicopter is also taking work away from the locals.
With loads that heavy, there's no chance of carrying them. But on the other hand, you have to ask, when there's so much to bring up here, whether it's a good thing, as you're leaving a lot of people without work. But that's not the real issue here.
It depends on the people, how they take in the new things and preserve the old ones. Maybe they can like make a mixture of the two things, new culture and old culture, so they can have the best of the both worlds. If they can manage that well, then it'll be very good. For example, like even in Switzerland, before maybe let's say about 50, 60 years, maybe it was very similar to Nepal, but they have managed it very well. the new technology with the old traditions. So if we can do that same in Nepal, that will be very good.
And then they get the call they've been preparing for. An emergency on the 8,000er Manaslu. Yet the rescuers are stuck in fog at Kathmandu.
Two French mountaineers have gone missing with their Sherpas. Between Camp 4 and Camp 3, that's between 7,400 and 6,800 meters.
As the fog over Kathmandu lifts and the team takes off, they still don't know where the climbers actually are on Manaslu. After 2 nights at over 7,000 meters, the chances of finding the French mountaineers and their Sherpas alive is a small one. But there's still a chance. If they are found soon. For that to happen, the mountain rescuers have to push their personal boundaries once again.
I'm taking the helicopter to the limit of what's allowed.
Feel okay. So hopefully weather will hold up. So there's the golden chance to find them. So if weather is still like this. So, but shortly it's gonna be close, I think. So we have to do fast.
How much weight are you taking out there?
50 to 60 kilos, I reckon. 50 to 60. That will hopefully give me the reserves I need to be able to hover up there.
They've never flown as high as this mission will take them. The climbers were reported missing at 7,400 meters.
Now we can go.
Gerold sets off with Bruno and Sharing to look for the missing mountaineers, the 2 Frenchmen and their Sherpas. They're filmed by a camera in the parallel helicopter flown by Siddhartha and by a fixed camera in the rescue helicopter.
Okay, I'm approaching 17,000 feet now. 17,000 feet now, and I guess I can go in. And I'm at 18.5 now. Absolutely fine, no problem at all. So, when we reach Camp 1, I can see the tents, but in reality, probably we are already above 20,000 feet. Waar is this too? Here. Okay, I got some tracks over here on my left-hand side, and I see the tent on Camp 2. I could see one guy sitting here on my right-hand side now. He's going down, dropping down.
At around 6,400 meters, they spot a Sherpa on his descent. They don't pick him up just yet, in the hope of finding further survivors further up.
Copy that. I will try to go up to 7-4. Let's have a look at Camp 4. Let's go for the higher ones. I will go on for do a research. We'll go up, we will go up and have a look where they are. It's quite strong wind there.
Up to over 7,000 meters, Gerold has never flown so high.
And I'm right now at 22,000. These are the tents. We have 2 tents there. It's Camp 3, but no other sign. Did you see anything? Yes, he knows it. Is it trying to do? Yeah. Probably we have spotted one, but they are completely off track. Well, check for you, Bruno.
I'm gonna say something, but I'm not sure what it is. Що за інакше? Very slow, over. That's probably a dead guy, dead body we saw. And above Camp 4 there is nobody there.
They found nobody other than the dead mountaineer.
Okay, that makes no sense. Just go down. We don't see anything here.
They return to the Sherpa, who is still continuing his descent.
Bruno, should I attach sharing?
Yes, that's fine.
Are you ready,
guys? We have to go, or you'll be too tired. Everything okay?
Charing attaches himself to the cable under the helicopter. Gerold will fly him to his Nepalese colleague, who is completely exhausted.
Are you okay? 1, 2, 3. All good, thank you. Okay, and then maybe we can just pick up the bag, and then I will drop it next to you, and then I can decide if we can take 2. Copy, Captain. Okay. We are with you. Okay, so I will just put you straight to the Sherpa. Are you fine next to him?
30 meters below on the line, Charing is getting closer to the Sherpa. Gerold attempts to keep the helicopter steady in the thin air at 6,400 meters and put Charing down accurately between the ice cliffs. After 2 nights at over 7,000 meters, the Sherpa is now hanging below the helicopter in safety. For weight reasons, Gerold must leave Charing behind.
Okay, copy that. Speed it up.
Bruno is waiting for the Sherpa at the intermediate landing site. Gerold flies straight back to collect Charing, who has successfully saved the life of a colleague. It was a textbook rescue, just as they had practiced so often.
It may look very practiced, but this rescue really was an exercise at the very edge of what is possible. The flight back down the mountain makes this very clear. At over 6,000 meters with 4 people on board, the helicopter is at its limit. Gerold struggles to rise any further and lets the helicopter descend over the ice cap.
Despite the struggles, the mountain rescue team has saved a human life. The Sherpa would not have survived another night on the ice at that altitude. The mountain rescue team has also passed its first real-life test.
Jenning-bai.
Yes, sir.
How did it go?
Sorry?
How did it go?
It went very well with all the system, technical system. And we went very high, so the system is perfect, no problem. Yes.
Has been your first intervention like that. Are you proud?
Yes, definitely. But there's good teacher, always good student. So there's no doubt.
Your teacher is here.
Yes, my teacher
It's great what he's doing. We don't need to come here as trainers anymore. He can manage, no problem.
7,100. This number should not teach you. 7,100. Yes.
Over 7,100. That's good.
Yeah.
Very sexy.
Charing and Siddhartha, who also flew up to 7,000 meters with the camera helicopter, have now finished their training.
I was not sure if you can land next to me, then we would have changed the chopper. Wir bilden sehr viele Leute aus.
We train a lot of people,
so ein Projekt
but being
innerhalb
able
von
to
kurzer
complete a
Zeit
project like this
können zu
within a
realisieren,
short space of time
schon
was
eine
definitely
Befriedigung
very
gewesen.
satisfying.
Zumal wir natürlich massiv
We
unter
also
Kritik
came in for
gestanden
massive
sind, weil alle
criticism,
gesagt
of
haben, das
course,
klappt nicht
because
und das
everyone
geht
said
nie
it
und die
wouldn't
lernen
work.
das nie.
They'll never
Und das
manage.
ist eigentlich
They'll never
fast mehr
learn.
ein Ansporn
But
gewesen,
that was almost more of an incentive for us and for them
selber, aber auch für
to
ihnen zu
prove that they
beweisen,
could do
dass
it.
sie das können.
A year has since passed. In Siddhartha and Charing, the mountain rescue experts from Zermatt have trained an independent team which can now rescue people in the Himalayas. Yet Nepal still lacks the additional skills, equipment and financial resources it needs. The Zermatt team has set up a foundation to see that the dream lives on.
Das ganz ferne Ziel, das wird sein, dass wir irgendwann können Ärzte in die Täler retten, die beispielsweise eine Woche da bleiben und sich die Leute kümmern, dass die einen Arztdienst haben und dass man im nächsten Schritt danach vielleicht schauen kann, dass die medizinisch gut und korrekt versorgt werden.
With the money from the foundation, Bruno and an Air Zermatt pilot were able to return to Lukla in the spring to give Charing and Siddhartha further training and to bring them new rescue equipment from Switzerland. What's more, Siddhartha is now flying with Simric Air, an up-and-coming helicopter company in Nepal, which has a powerful backer. In Siddhartha and Charing, he wants to invest in helicopter rescue in Nepal and build up a team with a future.
Maybe it will take time, maybe 5 years, 10 years, but if you do it correctly and if there is like good, motivation, and everybody is sincere to do this kind of work, then it will come very soon.
What is your dream now?
My dream is to provide a free helicopter rescue service to all the people of Nepal.